Are you wondering what can go wrong when selling your home? We're going to break that down today on Frequently Asked Friday. What is going on, party people? Thank you guys for tuning in. In this video today, we're going to break down for you the 8 pitfalls, the 8 things that can go terribly wrong when you're selling your home, and more importantly, how you can avoid these. Let's jump right into it. All right, so first and foremost, it can take too long to get your property on the market. This is one that most people don't think about. It takes them much longer to get their home listed than they originally thought it would. So, advice here, talk to a real estate professional, or if you're not going to be using a real estate professional, think through well in advance when you want your home to go on the market, and more importantly, what it's going to take to get your home on the market, which is generally a little bit more than most people consider. Give yourself ample time to declutter, to make improvements, to repair issues, to stage, all of the things that we do before we get a home on the market. Give yourself plenty of time to do it, not only so you have time to actually get it done, but so you don't stress yourself out throughout the process. Second issue that can come up is you can get bad offers, no offers, or even worse, you cannot get showings on your listing. So if we break down this problem, success in real estate really boils down to 3 things, or there's 3 things in the triangle of how to have a successful real estate transaction. The first thing is marketing, everything that's done to represent the property online and offline to buyers and agents. Secondly is condition, how the property shows, the improvements that have been made or not made, the staging that's done or not done, and any required repairs. And then lastly is pricing. All right, so as far as marketing goes, easiest way to make sure that you're having good marketing is to hire a competent real estate professional who knows how to market properties. But things we want to look for: professional photos, professional videos, social media exposure, just general marketing exposure to get your property in front of the greatest number of high quality buyers. Secondly is condition. So expected upgrades, repairs, staging, etc. I would recommend take a hard look at what needs to be done to your property before you list it. The best time to fix something is before you even go on the market. So here's the deal though. It can be very hard to take an objective look at your property because we all look at our personal homes through rose-colored glasses just because we have memories there, we have a little bit of a bias there. The other thing is too, is sometimes you become so accustomed to things in your home that you can't see the forest, or you can't see the trees through the forest. So I'd recommend getting a third-party opinion. Once again, hiring a competent, trusted real estate professional that is willing to shoot you straight is, in my opinion, the easiest way to do that. If you're not going to do that, have a neighbor come over, have a family member, have a friend come over, somebody that is willing to be blunt and honest with you as far as what is awesome about your home, but more importantly, what's maybe not so awesome about your home. And then the third recommendation here is to get a property inspection on your own property before you list. This really becomes applicable if there's any required repairs on your property, anything that maybe you've seen the wood rot so much that you don't even notice it anymore, or maybe there's unknown issues about your property that you're not aware of because you haven't been in the crawl space, you haven't been on the roof, you haven't looked at the chimney in a while. So getting that professional home inspection done is just going to notify you of any issues that you've got to fix before you go on the market, which is the much better time to do it. And then lastly is pricing. So most people don't realize that overpricing your property can ultimately cost you a lot of money, because if you're not successful, your property ends up sitting, and time on the market is your worst enemy when you're selling a home, because people naturally wonder what's wrong with the property, and anybody coming along is looking to take your head off in a negotiation because they assume there's no scarcity, they're the only one at the table, and therefore they're going to negotiate as hard as they possibly can. So with this, I'd recommend getting an honest third-party opinion of what your home is worth. Once again, we all look at our home through rose-colored glasses. We all think, myself included, that our homes are worth more than maybe other people would. I think the easiest way to do this is to hire a competent real estate professional. Another option is to get a full-blown appraisal done on your home that's going to run you about $400 to $500. But most real estate professionals will offer this service for free. And then last thing I'll say on price is, if you end up realizing that you overprice your home, if you have to make a price reduction, do it quickly and do it for a significant enough amount that it's going to get your home sold. What you don't want to do is wait too long to make a price reduction, because once again, that time in the market hurts you. Or you don't want to do what a lot of people do, is they do these little micro price reductions, or stair-step reductions, because what it does, it ends up just having your property sit for longer, which again, that time in the market is going to work against you more so than you might think. All right, so the next thing is the buyer's financing can fail, AKA they cannot get their loan. So couple tips on this. I would review a pre-approval letter before you accept an offer, and I would take it one step further. I would actually call the lender to verify the pre-approval letter, ask them some good questions as far as, hey, have you seen tax returns? Have you seen pay stubs? What legwork have you done to actually confirm this buyer is going to be able to get their loan? And I would lean towards, if you find yourself in a multiple offer situation, I would lean towards lenders, local mortgage brokers that have a reputation to upkeep, lenders that are preferred by local real estate agent as opposed to a big box lender, either at a big bank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, you name the big bank, or some of these call center lenders like Rocket Mortgage, or some of these other ones that are in a call center multiple states away, and if they screw up that buyer's loan, in turn screwing up your sale, who really cares? Because I've never met these people. We're a big company. We're going to get more leads anyway, and they don't have that reputation to uphold like a local lender does. I would recommend, if possible, to refuse contingent sales or contingent offers. So if somebody's got another property to sell, that is not an ideal buyer, right? You only take those contracts if you absolutely have to, but at all costs, avoid a contingent offer. Lean towards offers, putting more money down. General rule of thumb, the more that a buyer is putting down on their down payment, generally the more qualified they are, and generally the smoother that loan is going to go, the more likely that loan is going to close. And you might be saying, hey, Chris, but how do I even get into a situation where I can choose that? I would encourage you to hopefully get into a multiple offer situation, which kind of reverts back to make sure your home is showing well, make sure it's marketed well, make sure it's priced well. And those are kind of the three keys to getting into a multiple offer situation. Follow up, or have your agent follow up with the buyer's lender throughout the sales process to make sure that they are meeting deadlines and that the loan is progressing. We've had a number of situations where everything looks good on the outset, but for whatever reason, the buyer doesn't do what they're supposed to do with regard to the loan, the lender doesn't do what they're supposed to do with regard to the loan, and if you're gonna have a loan go sour, you might as well get out of it quicker or sooner rather than later, so that way you can move on to the next buyer. And then last but not least, if a buyer is buying the property cash, make sure that you review and confirm a proof of funds. A proof of funds is a statement showing that they actually have the cash that they say that they have in order to buy your home. So a couple things that we want to look for on a proof of funds: we want to see the name of the buyer, we want to see the date of the proof of funds, we want to see the institution that's holding those funds, and ideally I want to see how those funds are being held. Is this all in a stock account? Is this in cash equivalents? How is that money being held? And what's the likelihood that that money's going to change in value between now and the time of closing? A proof of funds is not a screenshot of a bank account without a name, without a date, and without any other information. All right, so next, the deal can fall apart on the home inspection. This is the one that I probably get the most as far as fears from sellers and prospective sellers. So first thing that you can do, we already talked about, get a pre-inspection, get an inspection on your property before it even goes on the market, so that if you do have issues, you can get those corrected ahead of time. And even if the buyer ends up doing a home inspection, you know that you're going into the sale with the confidence, with the peace of mind that they may find one or two things that your inspector didn't, but they're not going to find anything major that your inspector didn't. Next, lean towards buyers that are limiting inspections. You may say, hey, Chris, how do I do that? Once again, get yourself into a multiple offer situation. How do you get yourself into a multiple offer situation? Price it appropriately, have it show well, hire a competent agent that's going to market your property. Next, hire a competent agent that has the ability to effectively negotiate on your behalf. So somebody that has been there, done that, knows how to negotiate, has seen this situation before. Also, I find that a lot of agents get way too emotional going through this process because they're either getting too wrapped up into the transaction, or the sad part is they need this deal to work to be able to pay their own bills. So therefore, they're not able to give you good advice. So I would hire somebody that has navigated these situations before, that can effectively navigate you through tricky waters if you find yourself in them. Use competent contractors to complete repairs. So if you end up having to do repairs, I usually encourage clients, unless they're super handy, not to try to do them repairs themselves, or even worse, hire Jim Bob off of Craigslist, who's going to come in and do a shoddy job, but hey, he was $50 cheaper. But then that issue is going to creep back up because when the buyer has the repairs re-inspected, or they do the final walkthrough, they realize that the repair wasn't done properly, and it comes back to bite you. So hire competent contractors that know what they're doing. If you agree to fix something, do it the right way. And then last but not least, realize that selling as is an option. So when we say as is, that means, hey, we're going to sell the property. We're going to agree up front that we're not going to do any repairs, which is very much an option, especially in the market we're in at the time of this recording, June of 2023. But do realize that if you're selling as is, you're typically selling for a lower price, but you're trading the convenience and ease of sale for a little bit less dollars, but for the less stress of having to negotiate repairs. Next, the property cannot appraise or fail the appraisal. So what can we do here? First and foremost, price your home appropriately. So we're kind of going back to first principles. If we price our home appropriately, we tend not to get not only do we get a better result from the marketplace, more interest from buyers, but then even if you can price your home above market value and get an offer, at the end of the day, if that buyer's getting financing, it all depends on what it appraises for. So if we're not overpricing our home, we're probably not going to end up into appraisal issues. If we are going to go into a multiple offer situation, or if somebody's going to bid the property up over the asking price, one thing that we're always looking for is what is the guarantee, what is the cash guarantee on that appraisal. So for simple numbers, if a property is priced at $400,000, a buyer's willing to bid it up to $25,000, we'd like to see them guarantee that extra 25 grand so that if the appraisal comes in short, that the seller is still walking away with what the buyer has offered, if that makes sense. And then last but not least, hire a competent agent that can effectively negotiate on your behalf if you end up in a tricky appraisal situation. So we've seen this a number of times where the property doesn't appraise for the contract price. Maybe we didn't have a guarantee in place. And maybe our clients have to concede a little bit of the price, but we were able to negotiate that they get somewhat over that appraised price. So been there, done that. You want to make sure you have somebody by your side that's able to effectively negotiate that. Next, the buyer can default on the contract. So what does this mean? They just simply do not adhere to the guidelines, or not the guidelines, what they've agreed to in the contract. They simply just walk away from the deal. So how can we prevent this? Get an adequate earnest money deposit. I define an adequate as at least 1% of the purchase price we want to see as an earnest money deposit. So if it's a $400,000 sales price, we want to see at least a $4,000 earnest money deposit, which makes it a little bit harder to walk away from if a buyer is going to be coughing up 1% or more of the purchase price. I would also recommend that you choose to use an attorney as your closing agent as opposed to a title company. It's going to cost you a couple extra $100, but if you find yourself in a situation where a buyer is getting squirrely, it's very good to have an attorney on your side that can puff out their chest, do their attorney thing, and scare the living daylights out of all parties involved. Next, the sale could not close on time, right? Never a good thing. All right, so first and foremost, I would encourage you to choose a realistic closing date from the get-go. I can't tell you how many contracts I've seen where everybody's upset, everybody's wound up because closing did not happen on the closing date, but when we actually look at the terms of the contract, we look at what kind of loan the buyer was getting, we realized that nobody was ever going to close close on time anyway, just because it was unrealistic from the start. So that's number one. Number two, make sure that you are selecting competent vendors, and ideally make sure that the buyer is using competent vendors as well. So we want a good mortgage lender who's going to be able to close on time, who's going to do what they say they're going to do. We want competent closing agents on both the buy side and the sell side that are going to do what they say that they're going to do, that are going to do what it takes to make sure the properties close on time. And last but not least, you can select option number 2 on the contract, which basically says that if we're not closed within 10 days of the closing of the contract, that whatever party is ready, willing, and able to close has the option to terminate on the other side. So put a little bit of a consequence on the line if folks are not closed on time. And then last but not least, if you have a property in a property owners association, you could have homeowners association related issues. So what do these look like? Well, number one, a buyer can terminate the contract within 3 days of receiving the HOA resale packet. So they have a rescission period built into the contract by state law that says if you live in an HOA, once you get them the HOA resale packet, they have 3 days to terminate, walk away, penalty free to them. So what we like to do with all of our listings, we order the HOA documents well in advance so that way we have them by the time we go on the market. and we deliver to those HOA packets to the buyer the same day they ratify the contract, so that way that 3-day period is up as quickly as possible, because a lot of times buyers will terminate under the HOA clause, not because of something that came up with the HOA documents, but because they got cold feet, something showed up on the inspection, they changed their mind, family member talked them out of the purchase, whatever it may be. You want to get that 3-day rescission period closed as soon as possible. And then the other issue that can come up based on an HOA is you could have HOA repairs or fixes that need to be made if you have any violations on your property, i.e. your garbage cans are showing, you painted your front door the wrong color, whatnot. Go ahead and order those HOA packet well in advance, so that way if you have any of these issues that need to be corrected, you can get it done before you even go on the market. So, in summary, if I would give you 3 tips that would alleviate the majority of these 8 pitfalls that we walk through: hire a competent real estate professional that is going to shoot you straight and is also going to be able to effectively market your property to the maximum number of buyers. Do what you need to do to prepare your home for sale, be it staging, prep work, getting repairs done, get your home ready, do what you need to do there. And then last but not least, price your home appropriately. If you can do those 3 things, you're gonna have success, and pretty much everything else falls in place. So, hope that made sense. Hope you guys find that of value. If there was anything I didn't cover, if you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, fears, or a good knock-knock joke, either shoot me a DM, throw it in the comments. Thank you guys for tuning in.